Welcome to the Complete Street Commission's February 8th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in City Hall in accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and participating remotely to promote social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. We'll begin by taking the roll call. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I'm Chair Sally Cole. Commissioners present include Katie Baruzzi, Vice Chair Jackie Sebrian, J.K. Jensen, Lisbeth King, and Christopher Coleman. Commissioners absent include Brian Ottman, is that correct?
Right. Commissioner Brian's not here. And also, I don't believe Commissioner Coleman's here yet at the moment.
Oh, excuse me.
My apologies.
Amending. So the commissioners absent include Christopher Coleman and Brian Ottman. City staff present include Kevin Chen and Patrick Palmer. Kevin, would you please provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed? Is that Kevin or Patrick?
I think I'll be Patrick. Did I?
Patrick. It says Kevin, but it's you, Patrick. I thought it was Patrick.
Yeah, I can take that for you, Kevin.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair Cole and members of the Complete Streets Commission. Welcome everyone to the February 8th Complete Streets Commission meeting, and thank you for attending. At this time, we ask that the members of the commission please remain on screen for the duration of the meeting. You will control your own webcams and microphones. Staff will engage webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to the members of the commission. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment on any item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on that item, our virtual attendees may engage the raised hand feature, or if you are calling in from a cell phone or a landline, you can press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name, and then you can step up to the podium to make your comment. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you, Patrick. Under item C, reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Kevin, will you please ask for reports and announcements?
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. So fairly brief for this evening for this item. I just wanted to update the commissioners that we do have a new council member for district number 5. It is Councilwoman Maria Dewar. So if you haven't met her yet, feel free to introduce yourself as a commission member or a resident of Menlo Park to the new council member. Other than that, I will conclude my reports and announcements.
Are we including under C, Kevin, isn't there some email earlier between you, me, and JK?
Oh, right. I believe Commissioner Jensen might have an announcement. So Commissioner Jensen, if you want to make that now.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much. I just wanted to announce to the commission that I'll be resigning here in the next month, unfortunately. And fortunately, my family's going to end up moving to Arizona to be a little closer to family. And unfortunately, that means we're leaving the city, and it's really sad. I love this city, and I'll be, sad to leave it behind and sad to leave all you behind. But I really appreciate the camaraderie and really good work that everyone has done during my time here. It's been really meaningful and such a good introduction for me to local city policy and the way that the city is run. Menlo Park is incredible, and yeah, really sad to say goodbye, but just wanted to make that announcement.
Can we just all sort of in person and virtually give a cacophonous round of applause for your service? Yay, JK.
I hope that new city knows how lucky they are to get a nice active new citizen.
Indeed. I told JK in my email that I always felt he was very, very reasonable voice and always asked good questions. So we'll miss you. And we thank you for the service that you did. And for, even though you had a small kid, you jumped in, and that's really cool. So thank you.
Wait, did we tell JK about the rule that you have to find your replacement?
Yes. Before you leave.
Oh man.
That would be hard.
I can, yeah.
Well, thank you, JK. Thank you very much. If we were in person, we would have done cupcakes or something, but instead we'll give you a virtual thank you and a big hug. So thank you very much for your service.
I have one quick question. Kevin, you sent me an email like 20 minutes ago asking if I would make a report on the meeting I attended. Was that for now?
Let's wait until the subcommittee.
Great. Is that a subcommittee thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I never can tell them apart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, well, we can wait until that.
Okay, then we'll have something to say during the subcommittee section.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Do you know what? One thing we could maybe say in this section, Kevin, is that some of us went to the tour of the Menlo Park Community Center in December.
Absolutely, yeah, go for it.
A kind of a general report and update in our jurisdiction. So, goodness, Brian was there, Liz was there, Jackie and myself. I don't know if Jackie or Liz want to chime in, but it was on a Friday afternoon, and we all showed up and put on hard hats and went around and saw the community center under construction. I was very impressed with its design and sort of the seamless integration of the library space and the senior space and the kid space, and pools looked like they're going to be terrific. It actually was a very interesting exercise for me to go after we had looked at the parking plan, because everything looks so much different in person. But I thought some of the call outs we had regarding the parking, like, you know, making the kind of the quick stop spaces less than 2 hours and things like that, were very sensible considering how, you know, people might be using the center. So, but I thought it was really educational. I don't know if Jackie and Liz, if you have anything to offer. I mean, excuse me.
Council member, the new council member was there, Councilmember Dewar, and so we chatted with her, and because she was also chatting with people, there was a whole like, hey, I have a complete streets question for you, not from her, but from someone that she had talked to on the tour, who lives right at that corner that we kind of talked about. And she's like, I'd like to talk about like this, and this, and like, this is what I noticed. And so she, so we had a lengthy discussion, and then Justin happened to come by and provide us with even more information. So it was all like, it was lovely to see like the facility come along. It's nice to see so many community members there. Like, it's going to be a beautiful space, and I think there's a lot of really cool things that are going to happen. And yeah, I cannot wait. It's been a long time coming, so I know the whole community is excited about it, even if they're nervous about
so great
extra cars.
Liz, did you want to share any thoughts or anything on that?
No, nothing further. Thanks.
No. One of the things I really liked about the design was that they kept up a whole kind of beautiful row of redwoods. So for example, like when you're in the gym, which is a beautiful gym, there are these windows up along the ceiling level, like very, very high windows in the walls there. And you can just see these redwoods, like the light streaming through redwoods. So it really feels integrated into the site, the actual built structure. And again, I was really impressed with the questions that Mayor Wallison asked and others on the council, because during the tour, they were asking just incredibly specific questions about how the community would be using it. Really specific questions. I really sensed how invested they are in making it really good for people and making it a really easy to use facility and very welcoming. So very impressed by that tour. Okay. Then.
Also amazing views.
Yeah. It's a pretty space. So lovely. All right, then let's move on to item D, which is public comment. Under public comment, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. That's the important part, not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Patrick, could you please call for general public comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cole. For anyone who might have just joined us online, if you do have a public comment to make, just raise your virtual hand, press *9 if you're calling in by phone. That said, it looks like we have 2 public comments right now. The first is from Ron Snow.
Great.
Yes, I wanted to just quickly address you on 2 particular things. we have had so many close calls on that segment of Santa Cruz Avenue from the Alameda de las Puglas Y intersection north to where the cemetery meets
yeah. So where Santa Cruz and Orange
yeah,
together.
Orange is there, at AV is there. Yeah.
Okay, does everyone know where he's talking about? You know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The problem is that there's some convoluted connection to Oak, I think it's Oakdale and Sharon Road. But there have been so many near misses that families have reported with their children because it's a major school route there too. And our goal, and it's been sort of kicked around for so long, and we even had some positive feedback from the mayor. At the time, it was Betsy Nash, I think. Our goal is to reduce that speed down to 25 miles an hour. And the problem is that we're getting this pushback and pull because part of that road is county and part of that road is Menlo Park. And we just need either one of these two entities to go ahead and reduce the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. There's a school crossing there. There's been a gazillion accidents there, and there are near misses weekly there. So I just want to make that be a focus point for you moving forward and to get some support to make this happen. The other thing I wanted to call your attention to is that county has a resurfacing project for all the county roads, including that portion of Santa Cruz Avenue. It also affects Valparaiso and the Alameda from the Dutch Goose all the way out to I think Camino Lago, which is over by Las Lomitas there. That resurfacing means that instead of having these extra wide lanes, I think the lanes on Santa Cruz Avenue, for example, are near 12 feet wide. And if they were restriped to be 10 feet wide, like Santa Cruz Avenue is going to downtown, there would be enough room there to provide extra safety for the cyclists. So what we're trying to do is narrow the road and provide safety real estate for bikes and bike buffer lanes. And I'm calling this to your attention because that affects, if county does that for Santa Cruz, it's an opportunity for Menlo Park to do something similar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks for drawing that to our attention.
It looks like we have, oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, sure. We have another comment from RJAC. You are now the public speaker.
My name is Robert Jack. I think I'm the RJAC you're referring to. I live at 827 Valparaiso, and my comment and question are not on the agenda, but I'm in the block, the block immediately south of the block that is on the agenda, and cars get going very fast once they're past the intersection of University. The next stoplight is not until you get to El Camino. So a lot of people gun it, especially in heavy traffic. And my driveway, I share with two other townhouses. So there are three townhouses that share that driveway. And people, it is very hazardous. Two teenage drivers live in one of these townhouses. One of them a new license. I'm 79 years old. And so it's hazardous because there's only one space to the left as we leave the driveway entering Valparaiso. Making a right-hand turn can be difficult if there are cars parked So we cannot get in the parking lane to ease our way into traffic. And large trucks, and I have a normal size car, that is to say, a normal sedan size car. And I simply cannot begin to see over some of these huge trucks and vans and so forth that park to my left, and I'm trying to enter traffic to go either direction. It's very hazardous, and I worry about their collisions. And at a future time, I would like to see the commission address that issue. I'm not familiar with the procedure, but I'll contact you for that to see if what I need to do, who on the commission I need to talk with, and so forth.
Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate your call. You're making your comment. Can you just clarify for me what is the exit that you're making? Is there a road that comes out of a named road that comes out of the townhouse that you could let us know that you use, or
it's a driveway?
It's a driveway. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And it's 827 Valpo.
At 827, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And I have a few seconds left. The curb needs to be repainted. There is one space that is no longer, you cannot see the red anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kevin, I think that's all we have for the virtual comments.
Okay.
Not sure how you want to do this for the in-person.
Yeah, just confirming that the two gentlemen here are not, they're here for a regular business item that's agendized. That's correct, right?
Yeah, mine is the corner of. I'm his neighbor. I have similar situation with the other gentleman just finished.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to understand the impact.
Absolutely. So
on my driveway.
Yeah. So in that case, we can wait until this item, so that way we can have that connection there. Yeah. No problem.
All right, then. So we'll move on to the regular business items. Under regular business, the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. The one regular business item tonight is accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for, excuse me, there are two regular business items tonight, sorry. The first one is accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for December 14th of 2022. Is there any clarification from the commission before we take public comment?
No.
I only saw one thing, Kevin, which was regarding the statement on the minutes that was regarding overnight parking.
Okay.
Quickly advance to that. Let me see where that went. It's over here, right? Yeah. So it says in the minutes under F1, last bullet, the commission directed staff to consider, the last bullet is return with preliminary ideas to accommodate overnight parking without impacting future daytime operations. Mm-hmm. And honestly, this is probably my own memory and it was right before Christmas, but I honestly didn't remember that we instructed the staff to return with ideas to accommodate overnight parking. Did people feel like that was the...
I actually do feel like some of us brought that up. I mean, and that maybe I was the only one, but I think I remember thinking that I think we talked about not having it be random, but like coming up, I mean, it like not necessarily killing it all together, but developing a program or something, like exploring where are there permitting ways, right? I mean,
like
right
across the city, so that it was.
Yeah, so it was basically like if there's this loophole that some people have figured out that they can park overnight in a parking lot without getting ticketed. You know, some of those people are people who might, for various reasons, need that accommodation and would be willing to pay for it or have some kind of permitting set up, but
I
it
see.
didn't feel. I think that's what I remember the discussion was. Does that ring a bell for anybody else? But also coming up with ways that it was not gonna, I mean, you don't want it to impact daytime operations.
Right. It was, I mean, it was with high consideration of the fact that there's children attending the school as of 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So I think it was, maybe accommodate's not the appropriate word, balance, perhaps.
Well, and I thought that part of it was looking at what our city policy was about
Yes.
it. So that whatever adjustments we made were really around a city policy
Yes.
and not just
Yes.
so I think that certainly was
that's definitely it. Yeah.
So perhaps, excuse me, I'm so sorry, guys. I would like to add that language if we all agree. I with Jackie, I thought there was some aspect to it where, in addition to returning with the ideas about accommodating parking, we wanted it to be consistent with the city's approach. And I think that's important because from what the information that Kevin provided, it sounded like a consistent approach would be helpful.
So, wait, can I
sure.
So
sure.
Like one of the examples we were talking about was like when we asked staff where else in the city is this happening, staff said maybe Neon. And Neon happens to be exactly where we're trying to solve a thorny problem right now of like, how can we accommodate the overnight parking for apartment dwellers while still adding a bike lane and you know, things like creative solutions where you have a giant swath of concrete that's totally unused all night long, like figuring out a way to use that as opposed to just letting it sit empty and then not having bike lanes. That's the kind of thing I think that creative thinking that we were hoping, that I was hoping staff could start to bring forward to council.
So like returning with preliminary ideas about a city policy to accommodate overnight parking?
Or that could accommodate overnight parking without disrupting.
Yes.
A policy that could potentially accommodate overnight parking without disrupting daytime operations or without affecting.
Yes.
I think that's
okay.
I remember talking about, you know, you'll go to downtown Redwood City and you'll be looking for parking space and there'll be these bank parking lots where nobody's parking at all. And it's like, and you'll get towed if you use them. And I just keep thinking that shouldn't be like, they should just monetize that space when they're not using it. And I think our city could do that too. But that's not on the agenda, so we shouldn't talk about it more. Sorry.
Right.
No, it's okay. I kind of remember there was a little more to that conversation. So, okay. So I would like to have a motion to approve minutes from our meeting of December 14th, 2022.
With that amendment?
With that amendment, yep.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't take public comment. Oh, here you go. Sorry. Patrick, can you call for a public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cole. If anyone has a public comment for this item, please just raise your virtual hand. We do not have public comment.
All right, then I will make.
Before you take a motion, Chair Cole, could I just hearing you talk about that all makes a lot of sense. And just want to be clear that sort of my interpretation of what I hear you saying, and I think this is consistent, and it was a kind of wide-ranging conversation, so I'm glad to hear you re-clarify it for us, honestly, is that that's an important topic, but it's probably not, it's not going to come back as part of this MPCC stuff. It'll come back at a separate time as something a little bit longer term that we look at. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, I think, it is kind of expanding the scope of what we were talking about.
Yeah, and we do need to do this thing around MPCC, right? Addressing the kind of parking and other issues related to transportation there. So I think to make that kind of contained, then we can come back and again, because it's a bigger issue, and I hear you all saying it's a bigger issue. So like we're taking direction from you that kind of at a future time, we will bring that back. Well,
I guess the amendment could, Kevin, like literally be a new sentence where it says, in addition, we recommend that blah, blah, the city look at developing consistent policy, across the city for overnight parking in these types of spaces or something. I mean, I remember the conversation was kind of interesting. Overnight parking was definitely a lightning rod. I was definitely sort of against it. And then I remember we kind of went back toward like, well, as Katie says, like there's potential needs for it. And maybe we can accommodate it in a way that doesn't affect the daily operations.
It's just we're a lot of working poor in our city who live many more adults to a household than you would imagine and depend on their vehicles to get places. And we have an overnight parking prohibition on our streets. And that makes for some problems. And if there's a creative way, or you have, 6 grad students living in a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment.
No, I totally get that.
So
I do.
I feel like there could be solutions that don't involve taking over our city streets with parked vehicles.
Yeah, no, I understood the problem you were trying to solve for. I think that I also remember not being clear whether we, the staff had like a very precise understanding of like how many people parked there on a nightly basis. I think someone said 17 cars. Does that sound familiar? So it seemed like it was a thing.
Yeah, I believe the number that we heard was maybe like 15 to 20. I think that was the range. I think that was given by either the principal or the managing partner.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not happening now because right now it's a construction.
It's under construction. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to really talk about this more right now, are we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We're done. We're done.
Yes.
I think we had them.
I keep trying to kill the conversation and then saying, but wait, there's more.
Yeah. So I think at this point we do have a motion by the chair and a second by Commissioner Peruzzi, and the idea is to approve the minutes, but modify the minutes for that item to essentially start with a new line item that I guess replicate what Chair and Commissioner Peruzzi mentioned. I'll go back and listen and make sure I get the right verbiage.
Sure.
And share that with you offline before we make it public. So
Okay.
So
thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. So with that, I would go for it.
Take a roll call, right?
Yes. For those that would like to vote yes, if you can raise your hand, and then virtually, I think I need to.
And this is just for people who were present at the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Right.
All right then. The next item under regular business is E2, adopt a resolution to install a no parking zone on Valparaiso Avenue west of 1360 Crane Street and provide direction on a streamlined process for select future no parking zone requests. Kevin is to make a presentation and introduce this item.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. If you can give me a second here, I'm gonna pull up the presentation and share my screen with everyone here. Apologies for the short delay here. My internet started to decided to have a fight with me right now. Hang on 1 second. It is opening. I promise. Here we go. Here's screen. Tuition. Go. That's fine. All right, awesome. Sorry about that. So Kevin Chan, Senior Transportation Engineer with the City of Menlo Park. So we have an item in front of you tonight. Tonight is to ask the Commission to adopt a resolution to install a no parking zone at 1360 Crane Street. And this is the portion that's fronting Valparaiso Avenue. So tonight's agenda, I'll keep my presentation brief and open it up for community feedback as well as Commission questions. Briefly go over the background information, some of the evaluations that have taken place since we received the request, and of course the recommendations following the evaluation. Just a very quick picture of the location in question here. Again, this is on Valparaiso 1360. Looking at the housing unit from across Valparaiso Avenue. As many of you know, Valparaiso is signed at 30 miles per hour, generally speaking. We do have a few schools along that stretch of Valparaiso, so there are segments that have been designated as 25 miles per hour school zones, and this happened to fall within one of those segments. Right here, so after we received the request from the resident about the inadequate line of sight, specifically on the west of the driveway, so looking at cars that are driving eastbound on Valparaiso towards El Camino Real, if you will, you're looking at two images here that are from a point of view of a driver backing their car out from the driveway, looking west, again, towards cars that are driving eastbound. So the first image to your left here is essentially where the edge of the car, the back of the car, again, you're backing out, you're approximately on the edge of the driveway. So as you can see, the line of sight is not that great. And during the time of this picture, there was only one car, but if you imagine there was a second car behind it, which there is currently a space, then obviously the line of sight would be not great. And then the second one is essentially assuming the car is now, back out of the driveway and about 12 inches or so into the bike lane. So again, because you are backing out, your line of sight is further away from the back of the vehicle. So that kind of gives you a perspective, even though the back of the car is already into the bike lane, as a driver, your line of sight is still quite not quite as close to the bike lane as you think it would, because you're backing out your car. So with that evaluation in mind, we look at the current speed on the roadway. Again, this is signed as a 25 miles per hour zone. So looking at our kind of industry standard, the minimum stopping sight distance is 155 feet. Of course, then if you want to take a step down and then look at, well, what happens if it's not a school zone at 30 miles per hour, then we're looking at approximately about 200 feet of minimum stopping sight distance requirement there. So it does fluctuate between 155 to 200, depending on the speed of the roadway, obviously. So with that in mind, our recommendation, as you will see a little bit later on, is to look at the possibility of removing two spaces in order to provide that adequate line of sight. Here is a sort of what we call a sight distance triangle, if you will, really kind of highlighting what that view would be if those cars were gone. So in this case, again, that little triangle right here, this point right here, again, assumes that the driver is approximately somewhere right there looking east. You will be able to see about 235 feet away from where you are with those two cars removed. So 235 does indeed meet sort of the minimum requirement there. So definitely would be adequate to provide that sight distance that you need. With that in mind, that I did mention a little bit earlier that we are asking for two specific recommendations in this case. And this will be kind of the content regarding that second item. As you know, even though this item started out as a resident driveway request, it happened to situate where the parking is actually benefiting the intersection of Valparaiso and Crane as well. So not only is the driver, the resident getting that benefit, but the intersection, anyone that is coming in and out of Crane onto Valparaiso would also get that benefit from a line of sight standpoint. Just a back of a kind of, behind the curtain, so to speak, typically when we receive a request that is not driver related, but more intersection related, we would also go to our industry guideline. Right here is two screen captures that we have, we have screen capture that shows sort of the industry recommendation. If you're at an intersection, how far back from the corner would you want to mark the red curve in order to provide those sight distance that again, if you are a minor street, in this case would be Crane, try to get onto Valparaiso, hopefully they're looking for about 20 feet of red curve from the corner of the intersection. With a signal, it's a little bit more, 30 feet for one side. And similarly, even though this is not quite a request that pertains to tonight's item, but we thought this is kind of, given what we are trying to ask for, this would be another benefit to have bring to you as well. And this is actually a guideline for mid-block crossing. As you know, we do quite have a few mid-block crossings in our city. And generally speaking, they do have the benefit of not having parking between the crosswalk and the yield line, as you can see, kind of what we call the shark teeth. That looks like a shark teeth, basically. But there are some locations where we don't have that benefit of no parking, which then typically means that there's a car parked between those areas, which, as you may know, kind of visually thinking about this, it does block a car that's approaching the crosswalk, not being able to see someone at that crosswalk trying to utilize to cross the street. So this is typically another request that we would get, not as frequent as the driver request, mind you, but definitely one that would be beneficial to bring to your attention as well. So again, the reason why we are talking about those two specifically is because those have more benefit, typically speaking, have more benefit than just a single resident request. So we thought with some of the more request, the more frequent requests that we're seeing, those two could potentially be items that look for some staff to be able to kind of address them offline rather than bringing every single one of them. At least that's our recommendation at this point. So for tonight, we do have two specific requests for the commission. The first one is a very standard, your approval to remove those 2 parking spaces, again, west of the 1360 Crane driveway, for the benefit that I talked about a little bit earlier. And then the second request is to ask you for some direction, whether or not you felt like to streamline those future requests. And again, we're talking about requests that is specifically pertaining to intersections and mid blocks, nothing else. Mm-hmm. If it would be a benefit for staff to be able to just go ahead and use those industry standards and apply them rather than having to come to the commission and ultimately the city council, if necessary, depending on how many spaces we're removing. As many of you have kind of gone through the process now a few times, kind of the amount of work that goes into just a standard parking removal for the purpose of better sight distance. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to bring that, look for your direction and see if this is something that we want to carry forward. And your action tonight would be, particularly toward the second item here, would just be a recommendation to the city council to potentially streamline that process. So with that in mind, I conclude my presentation and open for any clarifying questions before we go to the public commenters.
I have a question. So I was looking at the speed survey that we did. I think the last one was 2019, maybe. And the speed on that section of Valparaiso, even though I think this was maybe before we did the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs, but I think the 85th percentile speed was over 30. It was like 32.
Right.
And at that point, the speed limit was 35. So I feel like we should be treating, in situations, I'm curious about whether staff would consider using the 85th percentile speed as opposed to the posted speed limit as a guideline for things like this, because I think that, to me, the speed people are actually driving is probably more relevant than the speed we wish they were driving.
So are you saying we should go with 35 rather than 30? I'm
just saying, I'm saying if we know people are driving a certain speed on a stretch of road,
right, then
even if we posted aspirationally, there's a nursery school near here, please go 15, mm-hmm. but we have this evidence that what they're really doing is going 30 or more, then yeah. I feel like that's, maybe this is too conservative, but I feel like that's the number that we should be using to dictate sightlines.
I see, yeah.
Or I'm asking if that's.
Oh, I see.
Is that a greater buffer?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I would err on the side, and that's not a clarifying question. It started out that way.
You're absolutely correct.
Thinking, especially with the school zone ones, because those are fairly recent additions to our cities. And I don't know that people have necessarily adapted to driving, and I don't know that we're doing a ton of enforcement on that yet. So
right, yeah. Yeah. So I know it's kind of not quite a clarifying question, becoming a statement almost, but I do have an answer for that.
Okay,
So you're right that typically, you know, when it comes to sort of your posted speed versus actual traveling speed, there's always kind of that tricky balance. So in this case, we did consider that, and so that's why even though, you know, you technically have that 25 miles per hour sign, we looked at what those removing the car, those spaces would have benefit wise. So we did look at, you know, I mentioned a little bit earlier, if it's 30 miles per hour, your minimum distance is really more about 200 feet rather than the 155. So in this case, that's why when we look at the removal of parking spaces, removing the 2 would get you almost 250 basically. And so with that in mind, that's why we're recommending 2 spaces.
That's great.
Just kind of taking into account the fact that, you know, maybe it's a little bit faster than your 30 miles or 25 miles per hour into account. Yeah, not something that we typically would do maybe on a residential street, you know, a local collector street where cars are, you know, typically, hopefully traveling at about 25, maybe a little bit faster than that. But in this case, we did take that into account.
Great.
Are there any other clarifying questions regarding that first topic, which was the removal of 2 spaces near Crane on Valparaiso?
Did you have any feedback from, actually, here's another question. I guess, I'm guessing Menlo School had to be contacted?
I believe so. I believe they were part of the.
Did you hear any feedback from anybody? I was sort of hypothesizing that maybe some of the on-street parking you're seeing on Valparaiso there might be student drivers.
It's entirely possible, but we didn't get any feedback.
So anyways, I wondered if, okay.
Right, yeah. Sorry.
I was gonna probably say that isn't the case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, having had kids, I kind of think they're really discouraged from parking on the street, and they always do park in the lot.
Okay.
But I did want to bring up how many crosswalks are there, and if we can get more buffers and greater line of sight with more crosswalks since it's so close to a school. And if the only crosswalk is right there at University to go to the school.
Gotcha.
Is that the case?
So are you saying to like of the existing crosswalks that's crossing Valparaiso?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's any further down toward Crane, for which you could then get greater sight lines.
Wasn't there going to be a hawk beacon at the Crane Valpo intersection back when we were talking about the bike route, the Oak Grove bike route? And at one point in Menlo School, it actually said they were talking about spending money on a hawk beacon at that intersection. Sorry, I'm taking us like back.
Yeah. I don't recall a Menlo conversation about hawk beacon. I do remember a Sacred Heart further down had a conversation about.
I thought it was Crane though, because we were talking about Crane. Hey, never mind.
Right. Yeah.
We can research that later, but
yeah. I can certainly.
So that's not in the works right now, is the answer.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that is currently not necessarily in the works, and Crane right now doesn't have a even though it doesn't have a marked crosswalk, so to speak. Technically speaking, any intersection there could be a crossing. So we can certainly. I think if Commissioner King, are you saying that because right now the request would essentially eliminate any parking spaces between the driveway to.
Yeah, I think that
to the intersection.
But I'm thinking to the left of Crane.
To the left of Crane.
Yes, I was trying to pull out there today, and I had a line of sight problem turning to the left.
Okay.
And I've seen pedestrians try to cross there with great difficulty as well.
We can certainly look into that. It does look like there is quite a longer than kind of typical stretch of red curve there, but I think that is something we can evaluate. Furthermore, I think kind of through that first public speaker that talks about 827.
Yeah, that's the place where the red curve. I was actually looking at a street
827 Valparaiso, and I know that the gentleman here will talk about some other location as well, but I don't think it's necessarily near there. So there's an opportunity for us to kind of look at it, but then rolling into Commissioner King, what you're talking about into kind of that overall evaluation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry, if we don't have any more clarifying questions, Patrick, please call for public comments on this item.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Cole. If we do have any public comments from our virtual attendees, please raise your virtual hand, please.
Not yet.
Not yet. Sorry.
All right. It doesn't look like we have any online. Thank you.
So, Chair, we do have two gentlemen here in attendance, and I believe at least one has expressed wanting to speak. So, if it's okay with the chair, both express desire to speak. So, if it's okay with the chair, I can go ahead and call on your behalf the public speakers.
I think my comment is the only one that pertains to this particular case.
Right. Yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, stating your name. And then...
My name is Edward Desmond, and I live at 1360 Crane Street. And I want to thank the engineer for doing such a professional job in response to my question about this topic. I've lived there for 7 years. I don't have any data on the nature of the traffic going past my driveway, but anecdotally, it's definitely intensified quite a lot. I don't know why, but it has. And one really clear measure of this is the intense backups that go well past Crane, waiting to get to the crossing line at Valparaiso, which anybody who drives in that part of Menlo Park encounters. But another thing that's really changed is the number of bicycles on the road, which is great. But another thing that's changed in connection with bicycles is the number of people driving battery-powered bicycles at 25 and 30 miles an hour. And having in the engineer's depiction, the pictures, it shows one car, but there are actually two cars parked in that space in question that we're discussing today.
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard to see cars, whether you're going out nose first or back first, just having a car coming down Valparaiso. But if you've got a bicycle moving at 25 miles an hour, it's curtains because they're moving so fast. And you can't, unlike a car, which you can kind of see through the gaps between the cars, you can't see a bicycle moving really fast through that same space. So I was getting increasingly alarmed and really anxious about this. I even bought a car with a better rear view camera. I was so terrified of hitting somebody. And then I've seen a couple of close calls. I've had a couple of close calls. There was a cyclist hit by someone opening their car door right underneath the house a couple of years ago, and the kid was badly hurt. And so I finally decided to get into the town and say, well, the only thing I can suggest that might make the situation better is to create a better line of sight for my driveway. So at least I have a better chance of assessing whether I can pull out or not. I know that those spaces are valuable, and they're mainly used by the people who work on Crane Street at the hospital. And so, you know, they're coming and going and parking there. I was surprised they're not at this hearing, to be honest, because I'm sure they don't want those spaces to go away. And that's a recurring problem on Crane Street. But I think that on balance, it's far more important to try to clear up the line of sight on that street before me or somebody else has an accident, especially with a cyclist.
Great, thank you. And then the second gentleman.
So, Sean Azarkar, I live at 739 Valparaiso. I'm his neighbor. My driveway is very narrow, and I have similar situation. Basically, between his driveway and my driveway, you guys are allowing two parking space. When the people park, I have no view to the left. Either the bicycle is coming or the car is coming, and so most of the time I have to come down. Especially from back, backing out, I have to come down, watch to the left, and if it's clear, then I just jump in and I try, to get out. So I'm really stuck when I try to get out of my driveway, and also since the city put only 1 foot between my driveway and the parking. Most of the time, the people, park in that red zone, and then they block I have some pictures, and they block my driveway. So I'm here since you guys are trying to resolve this issue. I'm trying to ask, the commissioners to resolve my issue too, because this is a safety. And I'm trying to avoid, having accident, somebody gets killed, or that damages to the people. Yeah, but I have some pictures. Basically, if you stand in front of my driveway or sit in the car, and then there are 2 cars parked, You cannot see any cars that is coming, either a bicycle is coming. And today I took a picture, there were 3 cars parked in the space of the 2. So I don't have any view whatsoever when I try to do that, and that's my problem. So, and then, by the way, the city is not, even on the red zone area, they are not painting. It's faded, and the people say, okay, half is gone, okay, I parked right in there. And so we need to find a solution for this.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's all the public speakers.
No, I have one more comment for the city.
Okay,
I'm an EV charge user between Crane and Chestnut. Okay, I regularly use that, and that's very beneficial to me. But most of the time, the 2 chargers on the right-hand side are not in operation. And I talked to one of the city's engineer, and he told me that the 2 headers that they have on those chargers are causing the short. And I thought that by now they replaced it, but a couple of days ago I went to use it, and it's out of operation. It's not operating. So. Okay. So it seems your engineer comes like every week or every 2 weeks, and he reset the system and reboots the system, and the short goes away. But he told me that he needs to change the 2 headers that plug into the cars.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think I can return the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. Thank you for the comments. Let's move over back to the commission members. Does any commission members have any feedback on this item?
I mean, I think I would be willing to make a motion on the first part of it. Like, that seems pretty straightforward.
I agree.
And I feel like we could more profitably, productively spend our time discussing
the second.
Like, we could pat ourselves in the back for how obvious this is and talk about that for a long time, but we could also just get it done.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Okay, Katie, I'm not quite there yet.
Okay.
I just, one of the things that was said in the meeting prior to this, which was I think some of you were on, but like a Zoom call with Maria, Councilmember Dorr and Councilmember Nash around Middle Avenue with members of the public. And someone said something I thought was quite interesting, because there was a lot of conversation around Nealon Park and concern that there wouldn't be enough parking for people using the park, et cetera. And someone said, what about bike racks at Nealon Park? You know, as if you are taking away spaces, can you put in more bike racks? Because that's going to encourage more people to bike there, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, taking away a parking space, or, you know, clearly there's safety concerns here that I can see in the diagrams and hear in the words of the members of the public who commented. But I just wonder if when we do that, we should just kind of kick the tires and ask ourselves, so who's parking there? You know, and is there adequate bike racks nearby? You know, just to see if the people who are parking there are people who might be able to bike instead, and if we've taken a look at that. So I just, not as even in a resolution or anything, an emotion or anything like that, but I just wanted to raise, Kevin, since you did the presentation, you may have an idea about the folks who are parking there. I don't know if it's people from that medical center or whatnot, or I don't, having a child at Menlo School with Liz, I don't think kids really need to park outside the school.
And that's what you had said.
Yeah,
I think
come from facilities to facilities.
So I'm curious if anyone just has any off the cuff observations about who is parking there.
Yeah, because like on your property, I see that you're at 739, but 737 is behind you. Do they use street parking?
Which one?
The house behind you.
The 737, most of the time they park outside, and because of the issue, they have 2 kids, and because of that, the same issue that they have.
So they're not using street parking?
I'm sorry, what?
Not using street parking?
Are they using street parking?
They just go in the morning, and then if they come in the afternoon, they park outside because of the issue that they have to come into the driveway. Mm-hmm. So, but at night, they bring the car
into the driveway.
Yeah. So And the reason that they park outside.
You mean, what do you mean?
You mean outside, on the street?
On the
is what you're saying.
The reason they do it is because when they go out, they're taking their chances, and that's why when they come in the middle of the day, they're just gonna park on the street and then they bring the car at night. But I know I don't wanna, keep my car, on the street, so I just bring him in. And as I said, I have an issue just coming to the driveway because most of the time the people are blocking and I have to be very careful when I turn. So.
I mean, if people are parking on the street, because if they weren't parking on the street, someone else would park on the street and then they wouldn't be able to see to get out of their driveway. It feels like they're not going to be necessarily penalized if the parking goes away, right? It's not like if I'm using the parking for the sole purpose of being able to get out without having to see around somebody else park there. It's probably.
Yeah, and on the 1360, what are we going to do to make sure that people don't park there when we remove those spots? What actually happens?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if the item does get approved tonight, and assuming we don't have any appeals for the next 15 days or so, then that item is essentially approved. So we will go out there and put in the red curb.
Red curb,
and
no parking signs.
Right. So typically, if we put in red curb, we try not to put the no parking signs. We try not to double. People don't like signs too much. So we would try to do one and or the other, not both. But it did sound like, at least from a couple of feedback that I received, then some other areas might require refreshing of red curbs. So we'll probably do it all.
That whole area, when I looked at it on Street View, was pretty dull. I have a question though. Did you do outreach to the business on Crane, on that block of Crane?
Yeah, so I did pull up the map. So we did include, so typically we will extend kind of that 500 feet, as you probably well know. So the medical clinic did fall within that 500 feet. So they would have received a postcard, and we did not receive any additional feedback besides kind of correspondence with the resident there. And I just, before I close my remark, I do want to maybe just address what Chair Cole mentioned, which was, how do we know who's parking there and how we address that? So what, kind of the short end of the story is, unless we're there asking them, we don't. But so one of the things that we have done for the past couple of years or so, or maybe like a year and a half, is in addition to postcards, we also have those the horseshoes right outside where the parking space is, with a big poster that says, hey, we are considering this parking removal. Here's the meeting date. If you have any feedback, email, come to the meeting. And of course, doing so basically is targeting those people that are actually using the parking space and not living around the area. So that have seen some success, but in this case, we didn't get any additional feedback.
How about from the to the left of Crane?
Right.
Those, am I correct that 8?
To the left of Crane?
Yeah, right. 823 is a house, as a resident on Crane. Excuse me, on Valpo.
Right. So yeah. So that in that case, there will be there's one house, and then the next one to the left would be Mr. Sean Desmond's one of the duplex, okay, I guess condos. Yes. So there's a house and then 2 units on the next parcel.
So I have one comment for the commissioners. So from 735 all the way down to Camino, there are lots of parking spaces, and they don't have the issues that we both are facing. Most of the time when I drive and I look at to the right, there are plenty parking space available, but most of the people, because they are close to those facilities, they just park and they go there. So the parking spaces available now, further down, and they have to walk a little bit, longer. And then I have one question, since you are the engineer for the city. So what is the standard for red zone, like in front of my driveway to the left? Is this a 1 foot or 2 foot? Or what is the standard?
Right. So typically we do have, so our our public works director has the authority to put in 6 feet of red curb from a driveway. So I just pulled up the area. Most likely you have about 6 feet. That's
No,
kind
I
of.
don't have 6 feet. No,
Okay.
but I have the picture. I have some pictures. I'm going to show it to you.
Okay, well,
Is that-
that's fine. I
so
mean,
it's-
we can give you 6
so-
feet without going,
So
to answer your question is, we can give
Yeah.
you 6 feet without going through any process. Anything more than that, which I think is what you are asking for tonight.
Yeah.
We'll need to kind of do the evaluation similar to what we did with 1360, and then come to the commission for the final approval.
if you
So,
have-
yeah.
if you
Hey,
like
this is, can I
uh,
jump in here real quick? I apologize, but, and I know there's an interesting conversation happening, but we're off protocol here a little bit. And I know we're in a little bit more casual environment in the downtown room. And this may mean we need to go to the council chambers because we really can't have sort of ongoing dialogue between members of the public and members of the commission going beyond the kind of restrictions that we put on these things. And I apologize. And I think to the person who's in the room, and I apologize, I'm not there. I'm the assistant public works director for this city. We do need, like, you can grab Kevin afterwards, ask him questions specifically about this, but we kind of need to stay within the constraints of the agenda and the way these things work. Otherwise, we start to run afoul of rules that aren't our rules, they're statewide rules. So apologies.
No, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Hugh. I was actually trying to figure out what was going on because remotely it was hard to tell. But yeah, so the members of the public in the room had there are 3 minutes to address this issue, and we can't allow more time or go off script with further questions about city policy. So with that being said, Commissioner Abruzzi started this conversation by saying she would be willing to make a motion about item 1 here, which is no parking zone west of the driveway. I was the one who just wanted to take a moment and plant a seed in commissioners' heads that as we talk about parking removals, let's also think about adequate, bike storage in the area to continue to support that around the city. But we can move on from that. It was just a comment I made because I wanted to highlight it. So Commissioner Abruzzi, if you want to make a motion, why don't you go ahead? Is that all right then?
Yeah, I would just move that we do what the staff are recommending and remove the 2 spaces.
Okay. Great, so I do need a second.
Second.
Okay. So I do have a motion by Commissioner Abruzzi and a second by Commissioner King to approve the removal or the installation of a no parking zone in front of 1360 Crane. So for those that would like to vote yes, if you can raise your hands, and then virtually I'm seeing unanimous votes. Sorry. Thank you very much. So, and then we can continue a conversation about the second item. And, go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where I keep thinking, thank you. I keep thinking we need better, like just a standard process in our city. Like there's one place that, speaking of mid-block crosswalks, there's one place that always freaks me out on Oak Grove at the intersection with Mills, I want to say it is. And I brought it up on like, I think I brought it up on C-Click Fix, but it has like a really short red curb and there's a tree. And it's a mid-block crosswalk close to the train station. And I just across from some townhomes and in an area with a lot of pedestrian traffic. And there have been multiple times that I've been driving through that area where I've had to slam on the brakes because somebody stepped out of a shadow and I didn't see them. And partly that's due to on-street parking that we have there. And I guess what I'm curious about for staff is, and I think Brian Altman would be asking this question if you were here too. A lot of what we're doing right now is sort of responding to haphazard requests from people who know to make them, or people who have the leisure time in their lives to figure out who to talk to in the city. But I'm just wondering if there's not, as you're thinking about a systematic approach, if, and maybe this is part of the local road safety plan or something like that, if you fold it into that. I'm wondering if staff have considered doing a survey of, red curb zones and high traffic areas, either along major corridors like Valparaiso and Oak Grove, or places where we know there to be a lot more pedestrian and bike traffic in general, and just sort of tightening that up a little bit, because it seems sort of haphazard and you can't be everywhere and you can't do everything. But I would love to see you getting the space to be proactive.
Right.
Well, I think that's a good transition to the second item, you know, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's what, that was my intent.
Like a.
Oh, good. Okay. So Kevin, maybe you could, did you have the slide? Yes, you do have the slide back up there. To introduce it, wait, there's something I was going to say. I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, let's move on to that.
Okay, so sorry, Commissioner.
I thought that that's exactly what you had up earlier when you had the crosswalk, which allowed for 50 feet, wasn't it?
Right, so typically it's about 25 to 50, depending on the speed of the roadway.
So if we adopt that protocol, then that would allow greater leeway in exactly this incident.
That's exactly correct. And, you know, that's kind of partially why we brought this item, is kind of for that location, honestly. That is one of the locations that we're aware of. And then, you know, maybe one or two other ones within the city, but that was kind of with that in mind. So to Commissioner King's point, yes. So tonight's item, you know, obviously it's going to go through kind of the standard approval process, but really the idea is allowing staff to be a bit more proactive, kind of in the case of Oak Grove and Mill to be able to do so. But then to kind of a more grander point about, hey, you know, looking at the kind of the major corridors, Valparaiso's, the Santa Cruz, not Santa Cruz, some of the other streets, you know, I think you kind of touch on the point about the local safety plan, and that is partially going to be something that we'll be able to kind of lean on and see how we can be more proactive about doing that type of stuff. So there is definitely that connection that we're trying to be able to kind of build kind of the foundation on and then kind of expand upon the local safety plan. So you're right on both fronts. Just kind of pointing that out. Does it make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And I don't know if you need to bring up that slide you had earlier that showed the amount of extra buffer space you get when you adopt the statewide policies, but it seems like a no-brainer to have that as your foundation to use throughout the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that is partially kind of why we're coming to you tonight for that feedback, right? You know, again, we have kind of the standards for intersections and then the standards for mid-block crosswalk. And, you know, again, kind of looking back at some of the requests that we received, obviously more individualized driveways, but we just happen to have that item tonight that kind of benefit both the intersection of Crane and Valparaiso as well. So hence why bringing that item in front of you tonight. So yes, it would allow us kind of the flexibility of, you know, again, do we want to take it more proactively and just go ahead and once we get the approval, address those issues that we know that need to be addressed proactively, and then systematically speaking, the bigger corridors that will probably take a bit more time as we kind of develop some of those local policies to support those decisions. But obviously, the more isolated locations, it would allow us to go forward and do that without going through the kind of the typical review process, if you will.
I have no problem with that. I think that's a good idea.
Like, I think I understand it, but I think the two questions I kind of have are around, so like this people, granted there are people here who wanted the thing that we wanted, but this parking thing is like, it comes up a lot. So I guess my first question is, if we are streamlining this, like if are we giving you, are we just recommending that staff come up with a process that allows this to happen faster without coming through complete streets, right? And so you're going to come up with a thing. And then I guess my question is the public comment piece of it. If it's not coming before us, and then probably not then going before council, because so then where is the public comment part of it? I can't believe I'm the person saying that.
No, I think that
people come and complain.
Yes, exactly. But then I have more like, I will say, like, I'm always going to be in support of what makes our streets feel safer for all of the users. And we know from tonight and virtually every city meeting around complete streets that I've attended that people drive fast in our town. And so I think you have to all the time allow for, like, I guess that's just the sacrifice I'm going to say to the people who need to drive really fast through town is there's going to be less parking because we need to go to your lines of sight because you're all driving too fast. So like, I'm going to always side on that. I'm just trying to figure out how does it look if you, to Sally's point, if, you know, the people who are now going to be displaced, like which other streets are they going to park on? So are there going to be new neighbors that we hear from because their lines of sights are impacted because cars are parking where they weren't parking before, because now they have to find someplace. And so like, I get that parking is just the thing, but
I think we could disaggregate the technical from the political though, right? So basically what we're saying now is staff would have the leeway to work directly with people who, I mean, they're not going to just surprise you wake up one day and there's red curve, right? They're still going to be talking to the same people they'd be talking to.
I'm still going to put up.
It's just that now we're really saying legally we need to have these sight lines to be in compliance so that the city doesn't get sued if there's an accident here, because we're supposed to have the sight lines and we don't in all places. And so staff are going to make that happen. And separately, I guess, if there's a problem that residents have where they are struggling to find bike parking or they're, you know, like those are things that can also be dealt with. But maybe they don't have to be codependent.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that question or that comment up. I mean, that's precisely why we're here tonight, is to try to see, you know, what would make that process, what would make the commission feel comfortable with that process. So what I'm hearing is, you know, how do we make sure that the residents are aware, hey, this is coming, rather than just to Commissioner Bruce's point about waking up in the morning and just gone. So, you know, there's definitely ways that we can make sure that the public is engaged. You know, the postcards, the sawhorses that you mentioned, those are certainly options that we can put into kind of overall as part of that process. And I'm kind of hearing that's what you would like to see, to have some, you know, public engagement as part of that overall process, rather than just go ahead and do it.
I also feel like this is going to have to be voted on by council, right? We don't get to decide this in this room. So when this is voted on by council, I think that's the opportunity for you to develop a staff report and a presentation that says, hey, Menlo Park, guess what? We're out of compliance in like 67 locations just within a 2-mile radius of downtown. And in any one of these locations, like if a bad accident happens and somebody gets killed, that could be a really, you know, we're trying to avoid that. and so you're almost like, that's the first big public discussion, right? Is people preparing for the eventuality that staff are going to be taking a tighter look at these kinds of sightline safety issues. And maybe that's when the discussion happens about how can we preemptively, you know, work with, you know, local employers to make sure that they have a good transportation demand management program, or, you know, that they're aware of the ones that we already have, and that we have good bike parking and the city has money available to put more bike parking in, and yada, yada, yada. But it, like, that seems like a good, robust public discussion to have, as opposed to like every time, like, it's like a little 2 spaces here, 2 spaces there. And it's not like, it doesn't rise to the level of a big public discussion where we're thinking about the outcome.
Hi, I just have a comment on that. I'm very sorry, it's a little hard for me to speak, but so I was not getting the sense when Kevin first told us about this item in the agenda setting meeting with Jackie, that the city was embarking on like a proactive either assessment or plan, excuse me, to take these standards and look at sites that are not compliant and start removing parking spaces citywide. So I did not get that sense, Kevin. I don't know if I'm off and that's actually the case. I thought that this was somewhat of a narrow issue, which was, would it be a more efficient process, excuse me, for certain kinds of parking removals to have it go through staff and not have to be discussed in the commission meetings. So that's my first part. My second part is, and this is for Kevin, I have 2 questions. One is the proposal on the table that the staff review all parking removal requests, like space requests, and that none of it come to the commission, or they review certain types? And number 2, I feel very strongly that there has to still be like a public component, obviously, as you said, like letting people know that this is on the table, giving them a chance for public comment. And I also feel very strongly that that should be transparent. So even if this moves off the commission, I think there would have to be some sort of place on the city website or something where people could send in their comment, written comment or something like that, and then posted. Because I think it's important that the decisions made to remove parking spaces are still transparent to residents. So first question, Kevin, what was the intent of this? Was it the narrow process change, or was it more of a part of a greater plan? How would that be positioned to the council? And then number two is just my own personal, number two question for you was, is this all parking space requests or a certain type?
Yeah, no, those great questions, and I'm glad you brought them up. So first question, no, this is not by any means the city or city staff trying to be proactive in a sense that we're just going to go out and do it. I think if I gave off that vibe or intent, I apologize for that. I think when I was talking about Oak Grove and Mill as an example, that's because we received that feedback. That's not because it's something that we looked at or we received that feedback before, and we have, as you know, we have a lot of things going on. So when we get feedbacks that unfortunately is not something that we're working on right now, we have records of it. So that's why I brought that up specifically. So to answer your question, no, it's not by all means to be proactive. If the commission wants to be proactive, we are getting that feedback. That's why we're here tonight, to try to see, what exactly will we want in this process to make the commission feel comfortable providing that authority, right, or providing that recommendation. So to answer your question, no, it's not meant to be proactive. Although I do hear Commissioner Baruzzi's point about, hey, what about those bigger corridors? And hopefully I kind of answered that already. The type of parking removal, we are strictly talking in this case, things that are part of an intersection. So again, not talking about individual driveways, just intersection level or mid-block crosswalks. If we happen to have a driveway that happen to border a intersection, in this case, that's why we're here tonight, right? So that in that case, I would, if it's only one-sided, I would consider that to be an intersection. But if it's both sides, meaning the other side is bordering a resident, like kind of what Mr. Sean, the other resident was talking tonight, then that becomes a driveway issue. So that wouldn't be part of this category, if you will. So hopefully that clears it up. Strictly intersection, strictly mid-block crossing.
It does clear it up for me.
How much of a backlog of those requests do you have right now?
So not including tonight, I believe we have 2 or 3 more in the books, if I remember correctly, not including the ones I mentioned tonight. Yeah. And those are individual driveways, not intersections or mid-blocks.
Oh, okay. So none of those would be. So right now, if we say like, please go forward and
the ones that are in the books right now would not be part of these 2 categories that we're talking about. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to conclude with the transparency comment. And again, tonight we're here for your feedback. So anything that you want to see as part of this overarching recommendation that we're bringing forth, definitely bring it up tonight. So that way we can kind of incorporate that into the final recommendation that will go to the city council, as Commissioner Baruzzi mentioned. So to the point about transparency about the website, yes, I think part of the standard community outreach that we do, the postcard, the sawhorse, they all have email or phone number contact to the engineer that is overseeing that project. To this point, we have not yet done a website for individual projects. So, but if that's what you are,
no, I didn't,
about, Commissioner.
No, I wasn't meaning a website. I was just meaning like, maybe there's a site on the website where it sort of says, you can submit your parking removal comments here. It's a little bit like the, city council inbox, and it's a public inbox. And the reason I say that is that, Kevin, I think you could get yourself in a bit of a pickle if someone applies and then the staff makes a decision, but there's a bit of a curtain about why or how, or if anyone else commented, that tends to kind of create swirl between neighbors about like, did someone, you know, kind of veto my or torpedo my thing or whatever. I just think if it were public, what people said, it would be just more helpful, but I could be off base. So anyone else can comment on that, you know.
What do you put, what's the signage specifically on the Sawhorse?
So it'll be very similar to the postcard. And on the postcard, typically the content will be, you know, we're coming to the commission for parking removal items. You know, typically if we'll say, you know, if it's a resident request, typically it's a resident request. You'll have the meeting information, you'll have the meeting information, obviously, and you'll have the engineer's contact info, both phone and email. So those are all information on the postcard, as well as the poster on the Sawhorse. Additionally, on the Sawhorse is the 15-day appeal period. So
that would go, the Sawhorse would go up prior, 15 days prior to
the actual, yeah. So typically that's how we've been doing it.
But
so
in the event that we move forward and pass what is a very specific request for streamlined process for future no parking zone requests, intersections and mid-block crosswalks, which makes the job of the engineers for the city a lot easier. Perhaps the Sawhorse feedback isn't going to be meeting specific and needs to be the generalized email or something added on to this recommendation.
Right.
I think that would make everybody more comfortable.
Exactly. So I think what I foresee would be, you know, maybe some sort of a public output or public input period, right, on the postcard and the Sawhorse, you know, saying that we received a request, it was posted on this day, you have X amount of days to provide your feedback, and you know, afterward, if we don't hear anything.
But in this case, it's really not a request. It's the city's moving forward with.
Right. So, well, typically because so that goes back to the whole reactive versus proactive, right? So in this case, we are still trying to basically still try to look at locations where as they come in through resident feedback, unless there's a, you know, and unless there's a very specific. But again, with tonight, if the commission as a whole is that, hey, maybe you could try to be a bit more proactive. And here, maybe if that's kind of the desire, we can certainly take that as a feedback and see how we can do so. But that does require sort of everyone here agreeing that that's a good idea to proceed with that.
I mean, we don't all have to totally agree. Somebody could disagree, and you guys could take it. I mean, you're going to take it to council anyway.
We can evaluate it.
But here's what this is reminding me so much of the NTMP. So the NTMP is the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Management Program. And again, it's basically like, it sort of defaults to, if speed bumps are necessary, they will be brought up by the residents, and after a very long and outreach process driven by the residents. And one of the things that we were talking about with this is, how about they're just places where it's dangerous in our city, where speed bumps can be useful. And I remember Hugh and Kevin being like, yeah, this is the purpose of the local road the safety plan. That we can start anticipating dangerous situations and planning ahead and putting speed bumps in places where they're needed, or whatever the, you know, calming devices are, and instead of waiting for somebody to say, but my house is the most important, and maybe that house is pretty important, but there's another place that's even more important. And this feels exactly the same to me, that, you know, respectfully, like, anybody could come to you with their problem, and then it has to be the top priority if you're not also taking a bird's eye view of the city and finding out where the accidents are actually happening. So I'm encouraged that you're doing the safety plan, and I'm hoping that site distances are going to be part of that.
Yeah.
Can I jump in real quick, Kevin? Is that okay? You know, and appreciate Commissioner Baruzzi, your comment there, and I might make this like a slightly different distinction between what I think of as sort of proactive versus kind of reactive, which is that to say, like, there is not, like, we don't have the time necessarily or the capacity to go out and like measure every intersection and find out what how much parking there is at each one. But that doesn't necessarily mean either that we would simply be waiting to hear from folks. I think as we kind of go about our day-to-day business and are evaluating various projects of various kinds, and we see situations, we might bring those forward as staff, or we might hear from residents in the way that Kevin's talking about, I think. So I certainly wouldn't see this as a purely like we wait to hear from folks, because I would want, essentially my interest in this is that I see this as an important safety tool. It's one that's just kind of best practice as Kevin has laid out. And as staff, we want the ability to go address these situations efficiently when they come up. Yeah. I don't think there are going to be a ton of them, honestly, but I do think there will be ones that come up that surprise us, and we want to be ready to to jump on those and completely understand there's no world in which we are going to go paint the curb red or install signs and then go hide behind the bush, right? We're going to do the notification, do the outreach in some similar fashion to what we do now. And we need to figure out the right process, maybe to do that when it's no longer a voting matter. But that is something that is a critical part of everything we do for every project, whatever it is.
So I think when we do a motion, which should come shortly, Hugh, to your point, Hugh went away, Hugh come back. I think that we should, hi Hugh, I think we should try and be specific as possible to what our intent is regarding that piece. I'm happy for this, staff's gonna go to council with this recommendation. I'm happy for staff to explore, how are we going to take public comment for these types of decisions that aren't coming before the commission in a public meeting. And the only thing I would add is I think transparency generally builds trust and sort of saves time ultimately. So maybe as Hugh suggested, you're sort of looking at parallel or similar city processes like heritage tree removals and whatnot, and thinking about how the city normally approaches these things and what's required. So I'm not trying to prescribe a solution like a website or something as much as saying I would push the needle on transparency. I think it will benefit you. I do have one comment though. If I were to make a motion on this right now, I absolutely 100% believe in this goal of efficiency and saving staff's time in these types of decisions. I'm fully support it. But the only kind of exception I could see is that if something like an intersection or a middle crosswalk was connected to a large city project, right? So let's say we're talking about like SRI or, the community center or something like that. And the parking removal is about an intersection, but it's very deeply connected to the parking and use of a visible city project that maybe the commission's already been involved in commenting on. That strikes me as beneficial to the staff for maybe it to come up, and also to the city to come up in a public meeting like a commission meeting, because we're not sort of looking at it as a one-off, but we're looking at it as part of that bigger picture. And it would be good for the commission to be aware. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if you can see scenarios like that, but I think this is a good idea to give you all the power to process these. I just wonder if they were ever related or tangential to a major project that we were already looking at, if it could be included in that. Does that sound like an exception that could, I don't know, that could come up?
Yeah, I think, Chair Cole, I think you're right that if there was something that was a large project, and let's take SRI as an example, they're going to do a lot of work on the streets offsite now. There may not be parking to be removed there, but let's just pretend that there was, right? Like they'll be doing bike lanes maybe, and they'll be doing an off-street path, and there'll be a bunch of things they're doing as part of that, right? And if parking removal is part of that, yeah, I agree with you. Like we would bring that forward as like a whole, it'll be heard, in by one body or another. And depending on the scale of the project, either Complete Streets will hear it or Planning Commission might hear it. But putting that aside, absolutely, when they're bigger things, it's not something we would, we're not trying to like skirt the public process in any way by this. We're just trying to kind of update our code to have the 100%. Authorities that sort of make sense. But yeah, the public process part of it, we hear you loud and clear, and certainly not ever the intent not to have that.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a comment. Sorry, I feel like we're not letting Chris and Jay, I'm talking too much. JK may have things to say too, but I wanted to say that it does feel sort of backwards to me that the projects that are least likely to inconvenience a large number of people are the ones that might take up the most public time. Like a little bit, I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but why do we need more public scrutiny for a mid-block sightline issue that isn't right by a crosswalk or an intersection than we would for one that was by an intersection. Like, why do we need a public hearing on that?
So if I understand your question correctly, it will be, sorry, did somebody try to speak?
No, it's me, sorry.
Yeah. So basically why kind of the public process or at the intersection versus driveway, right? So in this case, driveway, you're serving whoever household is using that driveway versus at the intersection, everyone driving on there.
Right.
So you're saying the process is kind of
I'm saying, do you really need to do a public hearing for a more micro scale change that is most beneficial to the immediate driveways? And again, is like, we're talking about what, 1 or 2 parking spots, right? In these circumstances. I mean, I guess I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. Why? Because I know all of these things take up a lot of your time.
Sure.
And you maybe need a process to figure out how to prioritize those because you don't have limitless time. But having it be a public hearing.
Well, maybe the intersection and the mid-block crosswalks are more straightforward and comport more regularly with standards.
But that's exactly what the recommendation is.
Sally, you're hired.
That's what I think we need to move forward with the
intersection.
With the, yes.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so there isn't a standard for a mid-block sightline issue?
No.
Okay.
We'll treat right now. We would treat that as any parking removal.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I totally missed that point.
So
Thank
I
you.
don't know if
because I think your point is, why are we taking up the engineer and everybody's time with a intersection or midsection crosswalk when you can use the foundations that be as your guidance and move forward?
Right, and the idea behind intersection and mid-block is, it's used by more people, right? People that are driving that street versus the individualized 1 or 2 households or maybe apartment complexes that maybe have more users, still very kind of localized. So that's why we thought this would be a good opportunity because it serves more wider public versus kind of just singleized location.
But we're still doing the singleized location.
We're still going to do the singleized.
I mean, I think that's the part that I'm kind of hung up on. It's like, it's so.
Yeah, can we expand your scope? It's like, what would be the protocol for single location?
I mean,
yeah, it's not part of the conversation tonight, but we can certainly go back and talk about that and see how we can potentially do that. I think part of the maybe not the challenge, but some of the weighing the pros and cons is, maybe some residents are more willing to kind of put up with a car parking closer to their driveway, given that maybe they want that space versus, stuff like that. So it's a little bit harder to kind of for the individualized locations to really kind of understand where they're coming from.
But if you had this framework going into this meeting,
right.
1360 never would have been on the agenda.
That's correct.
So we do save time.
That's correct.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I was more just saying, like, there are these other circumstances where literally you have 3 stakeholders. It's like
absolutely
you, the guy next door, and the other guy next door. And that, like, it's a lot to put together a presentation. And when you could be having those conversations and be saying, you know what, from our perspective, there is no sightline issue. We can, sorry, dudes, or,
completely understood. Yeah. And that is something that we can definitely bring back and kind of have a more open dialogue.
We have so much to do in our city. I mean, I appreciate how much work you all do just to get these meetings going. And then we talk a lot. So you're up late.
Well, I think we're close to a motion. I mean, I think we've all, I don't think anyone's had any disagreement with the premise that this is a good idea, that it's going to make things more efficient for staff.
Totally. I have one more question that's sort of tangentially connected to it, though I'm like, I'm happy to also make a motion to support going forward with this. But one of the things that comes up both tonight and on O'Brien and like lots of other times is that we can paint all the red curb we want. And if people are still parking there, it's not helping.
Thank you for getting that.
So I think, like, I don't know what we're doing for enforcement, but it's not enough. And so I think it's it's an issue. And if we're not ticketing for it, then people are just like, it doesn't seem to matter.
So I do agree. Enforcement comes up all the time.
If we're not doing something to make sure people don't park on the big curb.
Yeah, and having being creative with law enforcement to figure out, what works for them. I mean,
I mean, I don't
Can
need
people
it,
take pictures of
right?
people in
Not
front,
like-
in front of their houses and text them to a place?
Kevin, who is the city council? Oh, well, we can look this up, but there should be a city council person who is the liaison to the police department, right?
I think there's a subcommittee, which is Vice Mayor Taylor and Mayor Wallace.
Right, yeah, and we
Okay.
as a transportation division, we have monthly meetings with our
Yeah.
police department as well. And we do share some of the information that we have received either anecdotally by email, phone call, or you know, through our commission meetings. We do bring
Yep.
them up in those monthly meetings to try to, you know, have at least at a minimum, have a conversation about enforcement and how to make it a little bit better and easier for them to receive that information as well. Yeah, I know they do currently have a little bit of a short staffing in terms of the kind of the traffic enforcement aspect of things, but
Parking enforcement.
parking
To get
enforcement,
a
yeah.
different
So
person.
we are having,
Driver.
like I say, we do have those monthly dialogues.
Can we hire seniors to just?
So guys, there's too many conversations going on, especially being remote. It's too hard to follow remotely. Maybe we can just make sure we're not talking over each other, but
If
in
I can
relation
just-
to that, why don't
sorry,
we
go ahead.
just, I think, Kevin, it's always good to go through a couple of different channels, maybe to emphasize the same point. And I do agree with Vice Chair Sebrian that we are really hearing enforcement over and over again, like almost every meeting we have, you know. So I really appreciate you have monthly meetings and you're acting very cooperatively, but I think it would be good to highlight if it's Wallison and Taylor who have that meeting with the police or are the liaisons for it, just to highlight it to those council members that we're hearing this a lot. So let's talk about that. I'll connect with Commissioner Beruzian about that offline.
Do you want to check in with other commissioners who are remote? I'm sorry that it's hard to participate or hear as well, but JK or Chris, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, my main thoughts on this are, I think there's nothing wrong with iterating quickly on this. Like, let's make a change, even if it's like incremental, saying, yeah, let's give the staff more autonomy to operate as they see fit and report to the commission on things that they previously would have sent to us in meeting format. Let's receive it asynchronously. The items that need to be discussed can be surfaced asynchronously and then discussed synchronously at commission meetings. And otherwise, it's like they operate independently. And then over time, we could extend that to, yeah, maybe like a deeper kind of autonomy where the staff can operate and not have to go through so much process to get important issues like this through. But yeah.
Like our own little consent calendar.
Yeah.
Commissioner Coleman, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Thank you, Commissioner Jensen. No, okay. So let's move on then to, I think we're close to a motion. Does anyone want to put a motion on the table? I don't know, Liz, if you want to try. Sorry, I'm sorry, Kevin, first really quickly on the framing of the motion. Are we just recommending to the staff or just that they suggest this to the council? How would you want us to frame this motion? Sorry, Liz, to interrupt you.
Yeah, so tonight we are looking for feedback, right? So, you know, we don't necessarily have to have a motion, although it would be kind of nice to kind of just summarize everything.
Okay.
I have all the notes here.
Okay.
So yeah, but I think a motion at least supporting the idea, right? And then kind of identifying some of the key components that the commission would like to see. So I'm hearing public engagement, you know, let's say transparency, you know, kind of efficiency, and then also kind of the topic around enforcement and also involving developments. You know, those are the type of those are the key points that I've written down. So
sounds right.
So I think that could be part of the motion. You know, supporting staff's recommendation and then identifying those key elements as kind of components that to be further evaluated as we bring forth to the city council ultimately for the final approval. So something like that.
Yeah.
I think Kevin said. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
If you're looking at the parking removal in places where it should have been removed a long time ago, but we're sort of getting there. Sorry, I take this off so you can hear me better. I wanted to capture Chair Cole's recommendation that we check in periodically with local employers to make sure that they're aware of local TDM efforts and transportation management and bike parking and all of that, so that if on-street parking spaces are disappearing in town, which they will be at some point, you know, little drips and dabs here and there, having that parallel process where we're periodically.
So more of a public engagement about TDM with local business owners.
You're already doing that, right? I mean, this is kind of, never mind. Okay,
right.
We don't need to put it in the motion. I guess I just want to make sure that that's also happening, so that we're not just.
Yeah, I would say definitely happening from a macro scale, and micro, and then, but in terms of like, you know, isolated locations, obviously we're more than happy to reach out to those business owners as they kind of maybe get direct impacted from this type of request. I think that's a good feedback, and we're happy to reach out to them.
Kevin, I don't know if you need to say this to the council. It's completely your call, but if you feel that it's worth mentioning that if the parking around the intersection and the mid-block crosswalk are related to a larger development project that's come in front of the commission, that that issue will come in front of the commission. That would be the exception. The other thing I was thinking, Kevin, is I think it's a bit more obvious to us that maybe when you go in front of the council with this, there's some quick like justification around why these decisions, this particular type of the intersection, are lend themselves to be decided through a standardized process where the standards are already established. I think you got it. And I mean, I'll just make a general note. How about if we just, Liz, how about if like, I'll make a general motion, see if Liz agrees. Oh, sorry, it's my job. Sorry. Sorry, hold on 1 second.
Liz, now's your chance. Move.
My goodness. The motion that we agree with the idea, we support staff going to the council with a proposal to take parking removal as it relates to intersections and mid-block crosswalk request parking removal as it relates to those two things, to standardize the process around it and would not have to go in front of the commission. And we agree with the components that or attributes you just listed off as ones to explore as you create your proposal and take into account. That sound right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
While providing feedback from stakeholders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Liz, do you want a second?
I second that.
Okay.
Okay. Great. So we do have that motion on the table in a second. So for those that would like to vote yes, if you can raise your hands and just hold it up. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to F, which is informational items. Under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The one informational item tonight is update on major project status. Kevin, do you have any updates?
Yeah. So just kind of quickly going through some of the ongoing projects that we have here, just for your benefit. Obviously, I think many of you already know Middle Avenue. We do intend to go to the city council on February 14th. So definitely want to stay tuned for that one. There's some other projects that are going on just for your benefit. The Quiet Zone, we do anticipate to conduct a public meeting in late March for the Quiet Zone. So certainly, it would come to the commission at some point, but for those that would like to be more, in tune with projects, definitely want to stay tuned for that public meeting. Talking about the local safety plan, one of the things that we did talk about is potentially having a technical stakeholder meeting, technical stakeholder group. So in this case, it would be more kind of technically oriented rather than, I think, what most of you probably more familiar with, a more community outreach type of task force. So this is a little bit different, more on the technical side, but if there's a desire from any commissioners to be part of that, do let me know, and then offline, and then we can kind of coordinate on that effort. So, and then kind of a few of the other projects going on. Some of you know we do have a shuttle program study that are currently in the consultant selection process. So that's evaluating the citywide shuttle program.
Yay!
Yep, yay. Also, kind of one last local project would be, you might have driven up and down Willow Road that noticed that there's some signal modifications being modified. Those were transit priority signal modifications. So that was kind of a regional project that allow kind of the transits to kind of more efficiently flow through Willow Road. So that's what those constructions were for. So happy to see those as well, as you kind of obviously improving transit flow would be one of the great benefits of attracting more riders. Regionally speaking, two things I do want to bring to your attention. One is that the Caltrans electrification project, they finally got all the funding they need to complete the project. So yay on that. And the current schedule is to complete construction as well as all the testing, hopefully by end of 2024. So that means Caltrans would be electrified completely along the corridor, which is super nice.
Wow.
Yeah. And then something just to kind of bring to your attention, our own grade separation, there will be some hope. We do anticipate to go to the city council with some fully evaluated alternatives. So that would be something that you want to stay tuned. Again, once we have the definitive dates, I'll make sure to share that with the commission so that you can attend if you are interested. So with that, I will conclude my updates.
Heaven, if I might, I forgot to tell you something when we talked earlier today, and it's actually something that it's an update that's about something that I'm probably most excited about of all. It's a regional project, which is, again, those of you who've driven on Willow will have noticed that there is no striping on Willow since Caltrans repaved that last year. And that's been unfortunate, but it's been because we've been having this long conversation and dialogue, let's call it, with them about what that striping is going to look like. And today we heard that, today we heard that they are going to add buffers to the bike lanes that are out there, and they're going to stripe high visibility crosswalks and do some other things. So it was a long haul, but that should start work in the next couple weeks, and they should be, they've sort of succumb to our pressures to make that a more multimodal street. So it's first step. There's a lot of other bigger plans that we have for that portion of Willow Road, obviously with the high-speed vehicles and the heavy use. Buffers only do so good, but it's a step in the right direction and one we're pretty excited about.
Yeah,
that's really
I'm raising my one hand like this because I couldn't find the reaction wiggle like this. That's awesome. Good news.
I have a question. I thought I read somewhere this week that we got a $5 million grant for the undercrossing. Did I dream that? Was it a dream I had? Because I do have dreams like that.
Did not dream that. That's correct. We got $5 million from the OBAG, the One Bay Area Grant Program, which is the regional program run by MTC, the MPO in the area. And in addition to that, so if you think 5 million is great, how do you like 9 million? Because we got another 4 million from an earmark that was in the federal like omnibus budget bill that they passed at the end of last year. So Congresswoman Eshoo put that in there for us, and we're super happy about that. So yeah, we're quite close now to having full funding. Still, details to work out on some things, but making progress.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yes, this has been a great meeting with great news.
Wow.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. Patrick, would you like to call for public comment on those items?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cole. For our virtual attendee, if you have a question or public comment, please raise your virtual hand or press *9. All right, I will return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. All right, committee and subcommittee reports. I think Commissioner Brucey at the beginning said she had one.
Well, I was, Kevin had asked if I wanted to report out on the recent meeting of the Coleman Ringwood Task Force. And I will say that I don't remember which subcommittee that pertains to, but I'm the representative from Complete Streets on that subcommittee, or on that task force. And I'll say that the staff and consultants came back with some interesting concepts. Some of them from a cyclist perspective better than others. And lots of feedback was given. They're not making those public yet, so I don't really have anything to share beyond that, but to say that the task force is happening, and they're being creative, and they're doing really trying to solve the thorny issue of how do you fit all these different modes in a space where you have these really old trees and or it's a lot of on-street parking. So, ideas that have been batted around are, do we make some part of it one way, some part of, Coleman Avenue one way? Do we do we make it into sort of a bike boulevard type scenario, like what they have in Palo Alto and Bryant, where the only through traffic that's allowed is cyclists and pedestrians? And, what are the most important use cases along the corridors? And I'm glad I'm part of it, because I think biking up and down that road so many times, like, there are things that I think I'm aware of that not everybody would necessarily see from a, but if people have feedback and want to share that with me about that corridor, about Ringwood, Coleman, happy to convey that. But also our staff have been part of this as well.
Thank you. I had something, but I don't, if Kevin, I'm not supposed to talk about this right now, just stop me if this is okay to bring it up here. But I just wanted to say that I want to add to Kevin's encouragement to attend the Tuesday City Council meeting and even speak if you have a comment. And the reason I say that is obviously Middle Avenue is on the agenda, and we all know what a big deal Middle Avenue is to the residents of Menlo Park. But I do want to say that having attended this Zoom call prior to this meeting, and then I'll be going to Lyle Park Saturday afternoon with Maria and Betsy, also to take public feedback. And you're welcome to come to that session. Kevin, maybe you can send that around to folks, the time and place of that session. Thank you. I just want to say that not surprisingly, because this Middle Avenue has come for discussion so many times, one of the interesting aspects of the Zoom call, not to go into the content, but was that people have gotten more granular and more specific and precise in the questions they're asking, and the public involvement in the details is input around the details is really has increased a lot. So it's a bit of a different discussion now. And so I'll just give an example. The Milan parking was a big topic, and people were saying, when exactly did you perform the survey that made you conclude this? And how many exact spaces are in the parking lot at Milan that's behind the little house? And it was just like really at a different level. So for that reason, I think it's going to be very interesting with the involvement we've had for you to hear that dialogue. And also you may want to chime in as well, since we've all have a lot of opinions and perspectives on it. That's it.
I will say one thing about that, which is that I was going back through some old notes on Middle and was reminded that we were having this discussion literally in 2002.
Oh, wow.
I found that was the era when city council meeting minutes were really detailed. And so some of the same public commenters that I was seeing on the Zoom call were making really detailed public comments that are, you can read about in the city council minutes from 20 years ago. Some of them have changed.
That's amazing.
But it's a reminder, frankly, of how hard it is to get things done in this town.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Sort of humbling, right? You get excited about something, and then you realize somebody was excited about this 20 years ago, and
oh no,
five staff members later, here we are. But I'm optimistic about this upcoming discussion.
Yeah, well, our voices are important as commission members. So if you feel empowered to speak at this in the public comment section of the city council meeting, if you have something you would like to add. Okay, well, with that, hearing no other items, I am going to adjourn the meeting. So speak now at 8:34 p.m. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
For their time and service. Good to see you, JK. We wish you all the best.
Everyone, yeah.
Best of luck.
Thank you for your time.
All right. All the best.
Have a good night,
Okay,
everyone.
stay one.
Thank you.
Can you